So I'm just thinking as I go about something that's just occurred to me. And what it is, I'm thinking about sex. But specifically, I'm thinking about doggy style. And I'm not being rude or anything, that's not where I'm going with this. What I'm thinking is about how men think of sex, how men view sex. And as I said, this is just as I go, and I have no idea what I'm gonna be saying really. But I'm thinking that men see sex maybe incorrectly. Maybe men shouldn't be viewing sex like thinking about doggy style. In other words, men seem to think about the means of having sex, the methods and the techniques and the experience of sex. It seems that men focus on enjoying sex very much. Maybe it's incorrect to be thinking of sex so completely as about enjoyment. Because I suppose fundamentally, sex is not about enjoyment. Sex is a functional thing, it's a means to an end, it's a means to procreate, it's about reproduction, it's about babies, basically. So, sex is a functional thing, it's a necessary activity to achieve the end of babies. So sex isn't really specifically about enjoyment. It's about having babies. It's about creating people. And I've never, I think, seen sex in this light. I've never viewed sex as a functional activity to achieve an end. My main thoughts about sex have always been about the experience of sex and the enjoyment of sex and the pleasure. I haven't viewed it as being a functional activity to achieve babies. I think this was incorrect, basically. I think my idea and view of sex has been wrong in my life. And I'm thinking about, I suppose, about the way I've lived and what my attention has been and what I've been trying to achieve. And now I'm seeing sex as a necessary function to achieve the end of reproduction. And that view is different, I suppose. As I say, I'm thinking as I go and I don't know what I'm doing basically. But I'm wondering if men see sex, well, me specifically, but men, I suppose, in general, if men see sex incorrectly, in other words, is it wrong to view sex as being about pleasure and enjoyment? Is it wrong to focus on pleasure? And sex should much more be seen as a functional activity to achieve reproduction. I suppose what I'm wondering is, do men have the wrong view of sex and what it's about? And why sex is desired so much? I'm thinking about my own life and the way I've thought about things, and I see that the pursuit of sex has been a big priority in my life, I would say. I think it was a main aim I was going for, and I'm wondering about how I've lived and if I was being sensible and realistic with myself. And in other words, is it the right way to behave my whole life? just looking for a woman to have a relationship and sex with and whatever. But as I said, nature isn't interested, I suppose, in my enjoyment of life. Nature just wants to achieve babies. And so it has instilled within me a desire to seek sex. But sex itself isn't the goal. Reproduction is the goal. And sex is just a means to that end. So I'm wondering, I suppose, if I've been deluded in my life, if I've been wrong in the way I've viewed sex and the way I've pursued sex and the way I've made sex so important in my life. It seems, as I'm thinking now, that the pursuit of sex is the wrong aim. And it was never the reason for desiring sex. I'm thinking now, I suppose, that I should have been more aware of why sex exists and the purpose of sex. I should have been more aware. I think I was careful, I would say, about avoiding pregnancy. But the fact remains that the reason for sex is pregnancy and reproduction. So I think now that I should have been more sensible, I suppose, more intelligent about why I was desiring sex. I think I managed things well. I wasn't not careful. I was careful and whatever. But the fact remains that I think I had a misunderstanding of what sex was all about, and I didn't prioritize being careful properly. So I think it's interesting to realize this, and I'm hoping I can instill within my son thinking that like this, in other words, to see sex for what it is properly, that it isn't just about sex and fun, it's about babies. So it's important to keep that in mind because I think it will help him to control his behavior better and make better decisions. So I think it's interesting to view sex in a different way to the way I have before. So I'll think some more anyway, but it does seem that I have changed how I view sex now. What I'm thinking now is that I don't really miss sex very much in life, maybe as a result of this type of thinking. I've always liked sex, but I'm thinking not having it now and my decision to not have it anymore is not as big a problem for me as I initially thought it would. I'm seeing it as good for me to live this way. And I'm trying to not be miserable in life. So maybe that's why I'm thinking about sex in a different way now. So I'm glad to not be feeling miserable. I see the benefits for me, and that's more important than the plain enjoyment of sex. So as I say, I think it's interesting to be wondering about this, and I'm glad to not be feeling so miserable as could have been the case in not having sex. Mm-hmm.